Please welcome the CEO of Promise Keepers, Judge Vance Day.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. I never really had the pleasure of getting to know Bill Armstrong, but I have friends who got to know him well, and I understand that he was a man of deep and abiding conviction that was rooted in his faith. I also understand that Senator Armstrong, when he engaged those with whom he disagreed, that he did so in a civil manner. Even those that he had deep disagreements with, he treated with great civility. The foundation to civility, if you want to use that term, and some like to use the little more politically correct term as tolerance, the foundation to civility is properly seen in the context of the Imago Dei, or the image of God in us. Civility, in the words of Jane Lampman, the author, is, quote, a moral issue that deals with how we view and relate to each other and will determine the future of our democratic society. I think that's one of the reasons why my friend Os Guinness chooses to use the word civility over tolerance, because civility holds that image of God deep within its foundation. Now, we here in America proclaim that each person has the inalienable right to liberty of religion or freedom of religion. I'm not so sure that's still true, that everyone still holds that presupposition. Now, as a conservative, I believe it's self-evident. But when I look at the evidence, I see some of my liberal friends, those who espouse tolerance, I see that they seldom give it to those who disagree with them. You see, a culture ultimately reduces itself to three forms of manifestation on moral issues. Now, Paul Tillich may have been the person who originally coined the term or began to work with that concept, but I love how Ravi Zacharias reduces that and works with that. So there's three kinds of culture: theonomous, heteronymous, and autonomous. You want me to say that again? Theonomous, heteronymous, and autonomous. A theonomous culture, not a theocracy, but a theonomous culture, theos meaning God, onomos meaning of the law. The idea of a theonomous culture is that the law of God is written on your heart. The Apostle Paul talks about that in Romans 1:2. But a theonomous culture carries with it the idea that there is an immutable form of agreement in society for certain things that are good and right and noble, and that those will be practiced. And then the opposite end, that there are certain kinds of evil that will never be practiced. That's a theonomous culture. Really, the only theonomous culture or culture that currently comes close to that would be that of India. Now, a heteronymous culture, heteros meaning different, numeros meaning law, of course, means a different law or two sets of law being applied at the same time. We see this in Marxism, for example. The elites telling the masses what to do. That's a heteronymous culture. We believe that we're an autonomous culture. Would you agree with that? Generally so. Autonomous, or autos, meaning self, nomos, meaning law, again. So, law unto self, or law guided by conscience. Now, the challenge, of course, with an autonomous culture, if it's taken too far, then that devolves into chaos. But in matters of religion, the widest possible berth must be given in terms of autonomy. Or in the words of James Madison, quote, that religion, or the duty we owe to our Creator and the manner of discharging it can be directed only by reason and conviction, not by force and violence. So from a Judeo-Christian worldview, each person is created in the image of God and therefore has ultimate value. And being created in the image of God, we possess certain inalienable rights. So, here's the question. If we are part of an autonomous culture, do we really respect the autonomy of the other person? Or is it tolerance for me, but none for thee? Or civility for me, but none for thee? You see, if I treat another with civility or tolerance, I respect that person, whether I agree with them or not, and I allow that person to live their life as they see fit. Why shouldn't I have the same respect given to me in an autonomous culture? It should be, but I'm afraid it's not. Frankly, that's not the way it works in our culture today. Those who espouse tolerance typically pull a bait and a switch on us. They will agree that you have autonomy when you share their views, but as soon as you disagree with their beliefs, particularly on marriage or gender, or on the issue of a public servant espousing their faith publicly, then they switch from an autonomous viewpoint to a heteronomous viewpoint. They, the elites, tell you how you must act and how you must live. I experienced that as a circuit court judge when they attacked me and my family because I stood up and gently said that I'm not going to marry same-sex couples. I recused myself. Thank you. They sought to take my livelihood. They took my reputation. When that didn't work, they indicted me for 2 felonies that never even happened. And when we took it to trial and their case literally crumbled after that, then they came after my law license. But I still have that, thankfully. So here's the point. How do we deal with people on the other side? What do we do under those types of circumstances? 1, we fight. 2, we push back hard. And 3, we stand on our inalienable rights, but we do it with civility. If we lose the art of civility, then we lose the high ground from which we come. If we give the foundation over to our opponents who will switch to a heteronomous view of life, then we've lost the battle, just like they will and have. So I encourage us all, in the spirit of Bill Armstrong, a great senator who understood that civility was at the core of what he did, that he understood that he desired to be treated just like he would treat others, that we continue to move forward in this battle with a spirit of civility. Thank you very much.